Welcome to the Wednesday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Wednesday morning. It is almost the weekend, finally. We definitely have a plethora of headlines to go through, and a couple of videos as well. Let me make sure we got everything going here. Oh, I didn't set up my there we go. I want to give a really quick thanks to the offline follows and to the folks who gave some support yesterday that I didn't get to. First and foremost, thank you so much, Apostate Pajamas, I like that username. For the offline follow, Sound of Hope, Turtle Combat, thank you so much for the offline follows. Let me make sure I got all my tabs situated here. 1 viewer Andy, I've turned you into a 2 viewer Andy. You've doubled my viewership. Homonym, look at that. Look at that, in a split second. Boom. Doubled my viewership. You are truly the MVP. Single-handedly. That's right. That's right. Single-handedly. Look at that. Do you feel proud? Do you feel proud of single-handedly making my my career? Yes. Whose emote is this? Oh, Loner Box. I didn't realize you can just turn these things into emotes. I didn't think about that. Turning just memes into emotes. I mean, we've got some in the Discord, but I never thought about turning classic memes into just emotes for Twitch. You're wrong, it's boner locked? Oh, sorry, excuse me. Excuse me, I didn't mean to mispronounce that. I didn't mean to mispronounce Boner Locks' name. Sorry. You all should check out his latest, or his last video about, Lauren Southern. That was a good video. That was a good video. First article of the day. It's a cute article, okay? I feel like we need some of that. I feel like we need... It almost rises to the degree of just substituting a cute animal video, okay? It almost rises to that degree. Newly discovered rain frog. That's so cute, named after Greta Thunberg. In Panama. Look at it. Isn't that so cute? Isn't it so cute? I think it's so fascinating that till this day, we are still discovering new species of animals on land. And till this day, we've explored like but a small piece of the ocean. Of the deep, deep, deep ocean. Unfortunately, Homonym, unfortunately, that is a possibility. Although I would say a more immediate threat would be habitat destruction. A more immediate threat would be the habitat destruction. A tiny rain frog newly discovered on a mountain in Panama has been named for climate activist Greta Thunberg. Researchers first found the small frog while on an expedition in 2012 in eastern Panama when they were studying local diversity of amphibians and reptiles. Conrad Mebert from the State University of Santa Cruz in Brazil, and Abel Batista, a researcher at oh no, I'm not going to be able to pronounce this one. Chiriqui? Huh. Autonomous University in Panama led the expedition. Mebert, I'm going to say Mebert, and Batista have collaborated for more than 10 years in Panama. They've published 8 journal articles together and described 12 new species. Researchers rode on horseback over muddy trails up steep slopes to get to Mount Chucanti or Cerro Chucanti, the tallest mountain of Mahe Mountain Range. At 4,721 feet, the area is cold, humid, and forms what is known as a sky island. The habitat is extremely different from the lowland tropical rainforest from below. The mountain is isolated, and its unusual habitat, known as a cloud forest, is the only one within 62 miles in any direction. This rare cloud forest habitat has allowed species to evolve only there, which is why researchers like to look there for species discovery. That is so fascinating. And that's where Mebert and Batista found Greta Thunberg's rain frog, or Pristimantis Greta Thunbergi? Okay. A for effort. The frogs are found in the cloud forest, sitting on vegetation, often on or in bromeliads. Bromeliads are leafy tropical plants, yes. Hey Mono, how's it going? The frog can be very variable, from yellow to brown and even red, with some stripes and other flecks. They have very prominent black eyes which differentiates them from closely related tree frogs in Central America. The findings were published in journal Zookeys. No. The Cerro Chucanti Private Nature Reserve is nearly 1,500 acres, established by the nonprofit Adopta Panama Rainforest Association, Adopta. That's in Spanish. With support from the Rainforest Trust. The Rainforest Trust is a nonprofit that protects tropical habitats and endangered species by working with local communities and organizations. That's pretty cool. According to the Trust, the region has lost more than 30% of its forest cover over the past decade. In addition, a deadly fungus, here we go, this one's for you, Mono, is another threat to the amphibians. That's why the conservation of existing habitat is so important. Right, so to go back to your comment, Hominem, it is more likely that the destruction of the habitat and ecosystem is more of a threat likely to make Greta Thunberg extinct due to, rather than climate change itself. I mean, it's all interconnected, right? The trust celebrated its 30th anniversary by hosting an auction offering naming rights to an unnamed species. The winner chose to name the rain frog after Thunberg. Greta's activism for the environment is exemplary and deserves a frog named after her to generate more attention, as her name is globally known. The Rainforest Trust points out the newly named frog's plight is entwined with climate change. Yeah, there you go. There you go. It's entwined with climate change as rising temperatures are destroying the frog's habitat. Rainforest Trust is deeply honored to sponsor the naming of this exquisite and threatened Panamanian frog species for Greta Thunberg, said Rainforest Trust CEO James Deutsch? I don't know. I'm going to say Deutsch. PhD, in a statement. Greta more than anyone reminds us that the future of every species on Earth depends on what we do right now to end climate change. True. However, there's no ending climate change, but I get what they mean. Sorry to disappoint you, Mono. There wasn't much about the deadly fungus. All it says is that there is a deadly fungus, not which one, but that there is a deadly fungus that's a threat to the amphibians in the surrounding area. That's it. Sorry to disappoint you. I'm used to you disappointing me, so... Alright, good. Lowered expectations, that's fine. I'm okay with that. I think this frog is cute. Look at him. He just wants to be your little buddy. That's what this frog is saying right here. What would you pay to save the planet? Literally save the Earth for humans? Nah, it's too expensive. I always find that ironic, right? Conservatives. What exactly are you trying to conserve? I always found that weird. Good morning, I'm glad I'm not in a meeting. Wait, I'm not in a meeting this morning? Good morning to you, howdy howdy. I never understood that. I never understood that. I would pay $1 to save the planet, but nothing more. Not more than $1? What? That's it? A literal dollar? That's all you would pay to save the planet? How disappointing. Oh, you got an oil business to run and I can't afford more than $1. I understand. Yeah, that makes total sense. That makes total sense, my friend. What if I asked you for $1.01? What if I asked you for $1.01? Could you do that? No, I gotta invest that penny back into my business. Oh, yeah, true, I understand. I understand. It's just the cost of doing business. I getcha. I getcha. What if there was a possibility of you investing $1 and half a penny? In all seriousness, no capitalist will destroy our planet. Certainly the idea that the only motive and incentive is profit is certainly first of all, counterintuitive and counterproductive and unsustainable at this point in time. Only if you round down. Gotcha. Makes sense. Hey, here's some good news. Here's some excellent news, folks. There's nothing wrong with profit, it's just profit being put above humans that is causing the problem. Right, but then how do you get there? Right, you have to. How do you be Jeff Bezos? How do you become Bill Gates? How do you become Elon Musk? You have to. Tesla was just found guilty of illegal strike breaking. Amazon has been, well, in numerous occasions, been found to just disregard warehouse safety, has been found guilty, in my opinion, of disregarding human life. See the incident that happened with that tornado. All for just a penny more. If I could just get a penny more. Because, you know, Jeff Bezos really needs it. Or, well, Amazon really needs it. Well, that's the cherry on top, right? The secret ingredient is crime. That's like the little sprinkle, the cherry on top that you put on the cake. Because a lot of the stuff that happens is, quite frankly, against labor laws, but they don't get enforced. They don't get enforced, and when they do, it's like, but the cost, it's nothing but the cost of business. Every single time you see a huge oil pipeline leak and they get fined these millions of dollars, that's nothing to these oil companies. That's just the cost of doing business. Part of also what makes the secret ingredient is your ability and connections to government. Your ability to have connections with government, I should say, sorry. Yeah, I. That's right, Hominem. And it's the same thing with like the anti-abortion bills, right? It's the same with the anti-abortion, and these are the same people who claim that they want small government. You can also add to that, well, this is specific to Florida, so that's because I live here, so I know this. But also, we need to put cameras and microphones on teachers. But also, we believe in small government. The doublethink is just amazing. The government should stay out of our business, but also, we need to make sure teachers are being recorded with microphones and cameras. But also, we need to regulate people's bodies. Nice meme. Alright, so moving along to very good news. Yet they hate remote learning when they can literally watch the class with their kid. Right? Yeah, like, oh my god, that's a great point, Dr. Dragon Rider. Yeah, that's a great point. They're literally making bill. Well, okay, again, this is just specifically to Florida. They want to force a bill where they want to pass a bill where they want to put cameras and microphones in the classroom, but also literally do not want remote learning where they could be there watching it. If you really want to be that helicopter parent or so worried about what's going on, wouldn't you want remote learning where you can be there yourself? I guess the counter argument to that would be, well, a lot of parents have to go back to work because, you know, pandemic's over, folks. But the counter argument to that would be if the children are doing remote learning, you could always record that. So either way, nice meme. The government should intervene. No, that's communism. Government should stay off people's business. Okay, then let the government stay out of people's business. Let's have economic democracy. No, that's communism too. Everything is communism as long as I don't like it. That's usually the go-to excuse. Usually. It's really funny because when you tell, or when you ask people who are right-leaning or conservatives, hey, don't you deserve to have the fruits of your labor? Wouldn't it be interesting if you actually had control and, you know, reap the fruits of your labor? Don't you work hard? Don't you pay taxes? Why don't you get to see something for it? Usually they'll just nod along without realizing what they're nodding to. Socialism is when the government does stuff, and the more stuff it does, the more socialist it is, and if it does a lot of stuff, then it's communism. True. True. It's exactly correct. Alright, back to the news, folks. Good news, everybody. Nancy Pelosi is running again. House Speaker Pelosi said on Tuesday that she plans to run for re-election, aiming to extend her more than 30-year run in Congress. Jesus Christ. I'm running for re-election to Congress and respectfully seek your support. I would greatly be honored for it and grateful for it. What? Okay. Pelosi notably did not announce that she will run for Speaker. In her video announcement, she had promised in 2018 that this term would be her last in this position, but she has not confirmed if this is still her plan. I'm Omega triggered. Pelosi's announcement for re-election comes as House Dems are retiring in record numbers, as district maps are being redrawn by Republican-controlled state legislators to favor GOP lawmakers, and the party faces potentially challenging midterm. And the party faces potentially challenging midterm elections this fall. Democratic Representative Jim Cooper of Tennessee on Tuesday was the latest Democrat to announce his retirement at the end of his Congress. This brings bringing the total of House Dems retiring at the end of term to 29. But as a prolific fundraiser and experience as a deal maker, huh? That's very interesting. It seems to me that deal maker just means concessions. Okay. Pelosi is seen as crucial to helping Democrats running across the country. Why? I don't think that that's actually true. Is Pelosi some like nationally revered Democratic figure? I'm sorry, but like the public perception of Nancy Pelosi isn't very high. Yeah, what is it that conservatives love to say when they argue against taxes? A man not entitled to the boards of his labor, not realizing that it's literally the basis of left-wing philosophy, yeah, especially when it comes to economics. Gerrymandering happening live, yes, in 4K. My auntie who lives in California thinks Pelosi and Feinstein are liberal fighters for the left. She's a lefty, but a boomer. She also likes Rachel Maddow. Okay. Yeah, but like, what exactly are we doing here? What exactly has Pelosi done recently? I mean, maybe in the past, maybe her rhetoric in the past, but like, this is not what we're seeing here. What in recent history that we can remember when she was elected, what in recent history has she done necessarily to be such a liberal fighter for the left? What policies has she introduced? Not policies. Well, yeah. What bills has she introduced to make her a liberal fighter for the left? And this is a genuine question. Is she really like a fundraising giant? Is she some kind of fundraising giant? Because I'm sorry, but the perception of Nancy Pelosi isn't very high. The public perception is not good. Not good. She also likes Rachel Maddow. She threatened to stop talking to me when I criticized Warren. Whoa. Why? We're not allowed to criticize lawmakers, even perceived potential allies? That being said, I'm not saying that Warren is an ally. I'm saying that anyone who could potentially even be an ally is not to be criticized. Like, you can't say anything against Warren, Pelosi. I mean, heck, you can even criticize Bernie Sanders. Why? Is he some type of, like, untouchable god? Didn't you hear? It's all about the money. That's right. If the Dems have any sense, they'll pick Bernie as a VP. I don't think that's happening. I think it's GG, folks. I think it's GG. It was about how Warren effed Bernie. She brought up the whole... Oh, she bought the whole Bernie was a sexist thing. She's like an old school feminist. Yeah, but wait, that doesn't make any sense. I think we're just being blinded by partisanship or by being blinded by biases here. Well, nonetheless, my point was no one is above criticism. My point was no one is above criticism. What? Well, that shows more about them. Jeez, Dr. Dragonrider. Aye. In addition to retirements, Pelosi continues to grapple with how slim the Democratic majority in Congress is preventing the party from... Wait, now, Alright. It's preventing from passing key pieces of President Joe Biden's agenda, although Pelosi was able to finesse the bipartisan infrastructure bill through Congress. Biden's social safety net plan, known as the BBB, and key voting right legislation remains stalled in the Senate due to factions and disagreements within the party about how to proceed. Going to go? Bye. Thank you so much for hanging out. Appreciate that. Imagine someone hating you and didn't know or care. Yeesh. Well, we've made much progress on much more needs to be done to improve people's lives, so get to work. Stop talking about this. This has been the same tune that we get told time and time again. This is the same line that gets repeated time and time again. It's midterms, folks. This election is crucial. Nothing less is at stake than our democracy. But as we say, we don't agonize, we organize. This is the same line that gets fed to everybody, or at least the Democratic base anyways, time and time again. Pelosi's decision for re-election, but not announce her run for speaker, comes amid a larger conversation Democrats are having internally, whether it's time for the party to give way to younger leadership, or whether Pelosi remains crucial to holding the party together at a moment when it needs to be the clear leader. But they're not. But they're not. They did a protest sit out of Thanksgiving and we didn't know, just thought that they were busy, but found out because we were Dems like a year later. What? Just because you are affiliated with a political... What? Okay. Like I said, that I think that shows more about them than it does about you guys, right? Anyways, this is incredibly frustrating. The reality is, this isn't it, Chief. I'm sorry. You've got to... Okay. You can't just keep using the same line over and over again. At some point, people are just gonna get tired of listening to the same thing without any results whatsoever. At some point, people are just gonna say, well, they keep saying these things. They keep telling us that they're gonna do something. They keep telling us that we want to improve people's lives and run on sometimes decent platforms. We vote for them. They then make up excuses as to why they can't deliver on their crucial parts of the platform, and then try to run again on the idea that just Republicans are bad. So what else are you gonna do? You have to vote for us. At some point, people are just going to stop showing up. At some point, people are just going to stop showing up. And unfortunately, this type of strategy is perpetuating apathy. This type of strategy is perpetuating, or I guess I should say incentivizing, apathy. Let's be honest, who's excited? Who's excited to hear that Nancy Pelosi is running again? I'd wager not a lot of people. I'm sure there are some. But I'd bet that it's not a lot of people. Unreal. She should just retire already. That's my nuclear take. That's my nuclear take. Let it go, Nancy. Let it go. She's been there for 500 years, true. Hey Thundera, how's it going? Enough is enough is enough. It's insulting that she keeps running. Right, like, dude, just give it up. That's it. Alright, that's it. You're done. Just go away, please. It's almost as bad as the idea of Hillary Clinton running in 2024. Yes, give somebody else a chance. Okay? At this point, I don't even know if it's about pride or what is it that keeps her wanting to keep running. Is it just the power? I don't know. Nobody likes her but old ladies who's copped that MLK in the 60s. Alright, speaking of very hinged, very normal people. Robert F. Kennedy apologizes for Anne Frank reference in anti-vax speech. Robert F. Kennedy apologized Tuesday. Hold on, folks, 1 second. Sorry. Bakita the cat has been very mischievous. Alright, back to very hinged people. Robert F. Kennedy apologized Tuesday after critics, including members of his own family, blasted him for implying that Anne Frank had more freedom in hiding from the Nazis than people have today under US vaccination policies. Yeah. Quote, I apologize for my reference to Anne Frank, especially to families that suffered the Holocaust horrors. My intention was to use the justification is just amazing. My intention was to use examples of past barbarism to show the perils from new technologies of control. To the extent my remarks cause harm, I truly and deeply sorry. No, you're not. Get out of here. What new technologies of control are you talking about? First of all. And second of all, it's quite disgusting to even make the parallel analogy or comparison to US vaccination policies to Nazi Germany, implying that Anne Frank had more freedom than people today under what US vaccination policies are so oppressive that you need to make the comparison. That you need to make this comparison. This is just absolutely disgusting. Kennedy thinks the vaccines are mind-controlled drugs. Kennedy, the son of Robert F. Kennedy, the late U.S. Senator and presidential candidate, and the nephew of President John F. Kennedy, spoke Sunday at an anti-vax rally in Washington, where he likened vaccination policies to totalitarian leadership. Even in Hitler's Germany, you could... Jesus. It's like these people with their Nazi analogies or comparisons are just absolutely disgusting. Even in Hitler's Germany, you could cross the Alps into Switzerland. You could hide in an attic like Anne Frank did. What? Frank was a Jew. Yes, we know who Anne Frank is. I visited in 1962 East Germany with my father and met people who had climbed the wall and escaped, so it was possible. Many died, true, but it was possible. His comment did not address the 6 million Jewish people who died in the Holocaust. His sister Carrie denounced his comments, saying Tuesday on Twitter that Bobby's lies and fear-mongering were both sickening and destructive. I strongly condemn him for his hateful rhetoric. True. His wife had to get up on Twitter and disavow this. My husband's reference to Anne Frank at a rally in DC was reprehensible and insensitive. The atrocities that millions endured during the Holocaust should never be compared to anyone or anything. His opinions are not a reflection of my own. Jesus. Yeah, none of it mattered because the Supreme Court kind of knocked that down. The Auschwitz Memorial in Germany, a museum dedicated to the over 1 million people who were killed in concentration camps that the Nazis operated there, also condemned the comparison, exploiting the tragedy of people who suffered, were humiliated, and tortured and murdered by the totalitarian regime of Nazi Germany, including children like Anne Frank. In a debate about vaccines and limitations during global pandemic is a sad symptom of moral and intellectual decay. True. The U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum released a similar statement, making reckless comparisons to the Holocaust, the murder of 6 million Jewish people for a political agenda is outrageous and deeply offensive. True. And here's his justification for it. Quote, I referred to Anne Frank's terrible 2-year ordeal only by way of showing that modern surveillance capacity would make her courageous feat virtually impossible today. What? What are you talking about? Characterizing this discussion as anti-Semitic is unfair and cheapens a term that should always retain its terrible power. I don't know, dude. Why do these people continue to make comparisons to the Holocaust? That's kind of weird that they always continue to refer to that, to try to make comparisons. Yeah, so they can play the victim card. If Trump were to get reelected in 2024, 95% of the anti-vaxxers and anti-maskers would suddenly switch to using them. You think so? I think these... I'm sorry. But the majority... There's a good chunk of these people that are true believers. I'm completely convinced of that. They're doing it out of pure spite, and so that only their overlord Trump can solve the pandemic? Yeah, but the Operation Warp Speed and the developments of the vaccines were started under his administration, so couldn't they just use that logic and be done with it? No, this is much more deeper than that, in my opinion. I think it's deeper than that. I think it's deeper than that. Things they say to already an unhinged base are insane, like they're trying to build a pitchfork crowd. Yes. That is true. Correct, Thendera. I referred to like this logic doesn't even make sense. So he's trying to make a argument that there is like some type of modern surveillance capacity. First of all, what does that have to do with vaccine mandates? Okay? If you want to criticize the surveillance state that we have, look no further than the Republican Party, who, along with Democrats, made the Patriot Act. Look at the stuff Edward Snowden blew the whistle on. That's the modern surveillance state that if you want to criticize that, but like this pattern of comparisons to the Holocaust is a bit weird, my friends. It's a bit weird. Even Alex Jones would start touting the use of vaccines. I don't know. I don't know. He started going against Donald Trump when Donald Trump made his announcement about vaccination. He started railing against Trump. I'm telling you, Mastophiles, these people are beyond. They're just like living in another alternate plane of reality. They're just living in a different world than us. The Defeat the Mandates rally, sponsored by his nonprofit anti-vaccination group, featured several speakers who criticized vaccination policies and mandates against the backdrop of the COVID pandemic. A lot wouldn't change. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, there's literal audio of him.
I recommend take the vaccines. I did it. It's good. Take the vaccine.
He was booed. He was booed for the comments about boosters. He was booed about the vaccination comments, and I don't know. They just live. They just live in an alternate reality. I really think they're trying to wind up a crowd to do something violent. You don't say that shit if you're not. Yeah, maybe. Maybe they think they can control this critical mass that's building, but they would be deeply mistaken if they can. If they think that. Last note on this. If you are crying about people calling you anti-Semitic, maybe, and hear me out, maybe this is just crazy to say, but maybe stop with the Holocaust comparisons. Maybe stop bringing up the suffering of the horrible genocide that happened to 6 million Jews or more. Maybe stop doing that shit over something that's nowhere nearly remotely in any way, shape, or form comparable. Maybe stop doing that. Right. This is like being surprised Pikachu face. This is like, okay, this is like if somebody were to be hanging out with Lauren Southern, hanging out with Richard Spencer, and all these wonderful folks, Nick Fuentes, and then being surprised Pikachu face when you start being called like a Nazi or far right or alt-right, white nationalist, and then you're like, well, why? Why is everybody doing this? And then you just happen to make little weird jokes, you know? And then people start calling you out on it, and then you get surprised Pikachu face when you're being called these names, when you're being called a white nationalist or Nazi. Maybe don't do that. Just a thought. Just a thought. Maybe don't do that. maybe don't try to use Anne Frank and the Holocaust to push anti-vax nonsense. Just pro tips from ADT. Absolutely disgusting human being. The fact that there's even crowds for this is beyond me, to be quite honest. Prosecutors in multiple states are investigating false electoral college submissions. Huh. If SNL did a joke with an anti-vax person comparing it to the Holocaust, cast member would be dragged on Twitter and the episode would be pulled. Yeah, because that's not cool. That's not funny. That's not, like, there's no punchline. Like, what? There's no commentary there. There's no underlying point. Yeah, except this is real life. True. Sorry about that. I would say comparing Trump to Hitler is fair, especially after the attempted self-coup. Republicans are beyond parity, true. This gets very, very dark. During the chaotic 2 months following the 2020 presidential election, a group of Republicans in 7 states won by Joe Biden met and signed documents falsely asserting Donald Trump was or may be the rightful recipient of their electoral college votes. The efforts, which in many cases seem to have been coordinated by high-ranking members of the Trump campaign team, weren't successful. Congress did not accept any of the illegitimate results on January 6 of 2021. Right, because why would they? But those actions by these groups across the US still have been illegal. Yeah, I mean, if you can be hit with a felony, for trying to vote twice, or voting when you're not supposed to be voting, or voting for somebody else. If you can be hit with a felony for that, then absolutely this should be illegal too. Attorney generals in at least 2 of the 7 states where the Republicans met, Michigan and New Mexico, say they have referred investigations regarding the separate slates of electors up the ladder to federal prosecutors. Election laws are the foundation of our democracy and must be respected. New Mexico Attorney General Hector Balderas, in a statement to NPR, confirming his referral to the matter to U.S. Attorney Fred Federici. Republicans in Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin also sent in illegitimate electoral college results, according to public records and requests and subsequent disclosures by the left-leaning watchdog group American Oversight. Those efforts were uncovered shortly after the election, but they're now getting renewed scrutiny for a number of reasons. Yeah, because it turns out the fact that they were trying to shove in illegitimate electoral college results is pretty disturbing. The House committee tasked with investigating the January 6 attack is focusing on them, according to the panel's chairperson, Representative Benny Thompson. The committee subpoenaed 2 high-ranking Trump campaign officials last week who were reportedly involved in the scheme, Rudy Giuliani and Boris Epshteyn. Epshteyn told MSNBC on Friday that he was involved in the effort, and the Washington Post and CNN reported last week on Giuliani's involvement. We are concerned that documents have been filed saying that they were individuals responsible for conducting and certifying elections, and they are not. And when you falsify documents in most instances, that is a criminal act. And it's not just like falsifying a random record. These are falsifying electoral college results. The announcement this month from Balderas and Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel similarly seemed to indicate that there could be legal ramifications for people in Trump's orbit who sought to overturn the election after more than a year without any evidence, I guess, would be the final word here. Ben Ginsburg, a longtime Republican election attorney, called it pretty unlikely that anyone involved in the scheme to send fake election results see jail time, for instance, because there aren't any clear laws that outlaw this specific action. So, a technicality. Is what's going to save them. Allegedly. Nessel of Michigan mentioned forgery and conspiracy against the U.S. as possible charges, but Ginsburg said that what transpired in 2020 doesn't fit cleanly. What went on was certainly intentionally misleading, but I think it is one of those areas probably not contemplated by those who drafted the laws, so specific statutes are not immediately obvious as bad as this was. Wait. So you're kind of conceding the fact that A, this happened, but B, we're gonna just use like the technicalities? What? This scenario itself is an argument Ginsburg said in favor of reforming the Electoral Count Act, which governs the process for certifying the presidential election. The law is notoriously vague when it comes to settling electoral disputes, which opens the door for scenarios like 2020 where a losing party can submit a competing set of electors in hopes of taking advantage of the cracks in the poorly written law. Yikes. Momentum is building in Congress for refreshing of the 1887 law, and Ginsburg says rewriting it would go a long way towards discouraging losing parties from trying similar tactics in the future. The key to the electoral system is the integrity of the people involved. Right. The idea that this institution is held by norms is wild. They deserve to be chastised and have their own spot in the history books. They deserve to be remembered only for that, true. The key to the electoral system is the integrity of people involved. There's no way to possibly legislate for every kind of bad act. All you can do is firm up the guardrails around the process, or switch to popular vote. I mean, if your institution is relying on the integrity of the people involved, we've seen what could possibly happen. So, yeah, that's not good. That's not sufficient. That is not sufficient at all. Knowing how Trump was blasting norms out of the water, knowing that the Republican Party continues to just not care about norms, a lot of these faux guardrails are just being dissolved right in front of our eyes. If there's such a thin guardrail for the Electoral College that relies on the integrity of the people involved, that is unbelievably weak. In order for a democracy to be as healthy as possible, you need to have strong institutions. These institutions need to function as is. If you can break the Electoral College or the electoral system because you want to disregard norms, that is not a very strong institution. In fact, this kind of makes the argument against the Electoral College. If it is so easy to break, why have it in the first place? If it is this easy to circumvent, why is it here? Why is this even a thing? If we're relying on the integrity of the people involved, why is this a thing? One thing's for sure, it's a lot harder to dispute popular vote. There are no backdoor certifications going on with electors. And he even admits that a losing party could try similar tactics in the future, could try this again. Can you imagine a scenario in 2024? This is a scenario that could potentially happen. Although, to be quite frank, the likelihood is not high, but let's say the Democratic candidate wins in 2024. And to that hypothetical, let's say the Democratic candidate was running against Trump, and Trump loses again. It's just now the standard procedure every time, a losing party throws a hissy fit. Not good. Why is it trying to sell me shoes? After the January 6th insurrection, Capitol Police's intelligence unit quietly started scrutinizing the backgrounds of people who met with lawmakers, according to three people familiar with the matter. Politico also viewed written communications describing the new approach as part of a host of changes that the department implemented after the Capitol attack. Examining the social media feeds of people who aren't suspected of crimes, however, is a controversial move for law enforcement and intelligence officials given the civil liberty concerns it raises. while I understand that this is a very serious matter and all involved should be investigated, we went over the hearings that they had over this January 6th insurrection and the attempt to use this or justify the expansion for, law enforcement budgets, more powers for law enforcement, surveillance, data collection. That part is not okay. That part is not okay. You can't justify your mess up. You can't justify your F up to then ask for more expanded powers, surveillance, and data gathering capabilities, expanding your budget. You don't need that. You already have anti-terrorist units. You messed it up. Among those who have been subject to new Capitol Police scrutiny are Hill staffers. The three people said all spoke on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to discuss the matter. Kelly Armstrong said in an interview that he is unaware of any members who know about the very, very bad practice. Whatever they think that sounds like, for security it sounds dangerously close, if not already over the line, to spying on members of Congress, their staff, constituents, and their supporters, said Armstrong, a former criminal defense attorney. Anybody involved with implementing this without making it known to the actual member of Congress should resign or be fired immediately. And I'm not big on calling for resignations. Several Capitol Police intelligence analysts have already raised concerns about the practice to the department's Inspector General, according to the people who spoke for this story. The Capitol Police, in a statement, defended the practice of searching for public information about people meeting with lawmakers and said that the department coordinates with the work with members of offices. The more public information we have, the better we can understand what kind and how much security is necessary. Okay, but I just don't want to step over that line, right? That's really the issue here. If you have credible evidence that ex-member or staffers, potentially people related to that, had anything to do with January 6th, then they should be investigated. If they do not have sufficient evidence or reason to believe, then F off. Major changes in Capitol Police intelligence units started in the fall of 2020 when the department brought on former Department of Homeland Security official Julie Farnham to help run its intelligence unit, which is housed in its Intelligence and Interagency Coordinated Division. In the weeks before the January 6th Capitol attacks, Farnham made a host of changes to internal intelligence protocols that caused internal confusion and scrambled the priorities of the unit's analysts. Yeah, so that's their convenient F up, and they want to, what? Have more? Then in the months after the riot, Farnham changed another key process in the way that hasn't been previously reported. For years, analysts in the department's intelligence division have put together documents called the Congressional Event Assessment. That process entails a House and Senate Sergeant-at-Arms, Congress Chamber's internal logistic and security leaders, and sharing information with Capitol Police on lawmakers' plans for meetings and events away from the Capitol. Intelligence Division analysts then use that information to assess physical safety risks to those events, things such as large planned protests, parades, concerts, or any other events that would draw crowds. Analysts regularly filled out a standard template with that assessment, but after the Capitol attack, Farnham changed the template. According to a copy that a Political reviewed, she directed analysts to look closely at the people meeting privately and publicly with members. A Capitol Police spokesperson said the template Political reviewed was not the most recent version. I mean, I would say just like, spill the beans, air this out. Transparency is so key. In addition to basic information about the event, revised template reviewed by Political asked the analysts to describe the background of participants other than members of Congress and attendees if known. The template also told intelligence analysts to look at social media feeds related to event attendees. In searching social media outlets, is there anything that may impact the event itself or any of the participants, both members and other known attendees? And it told Capitol Police to analysts to search for information about lawmakers' opponents and their opponents' supporters. List and search all political opponents to see if they or their followers intend to attend or disrupt the event. Jesus Christ. In another document reviewed by Politico, one Capitol Police official noted that Farnham directed analysts to run background checks on people whom lawmakers plan to meet with, including donors and associates. When staff were listed as attendees these meetings, Capitol Police intelligence analysts also got asked to check the social media accounts of the staffers. Analysts were also directed to probe ownership of buildings where members of Congress held their meetings. Is there a foreign interest or ownership in the event location? Are there any permanent delegations or missions in the immediate area of the event? Beyond foreign ownership, analysts were directed to provide more information about the buildings where members of Congress held meetings. The Intelligence Division leadership asked analysts to search for information about how many rooms are in these buildings, what amenities were available, and even their last remodeling. What? What exactly is the justification for this? Like, are they gonna air this out for the public? No. Analysts were also tasked with sifting through tax and real estate records to find out who owned the properties that lawmakers visited. For example, this is a job, I would argue, for investigative journalists. Who owned the properties that lawmakers visited. For example, the unit scrutinized the meeting that Senator Rick Scott held with donors in a private home. Analysts eyed the homeowners and attendees' social media accounts and looked for any foreign contacts they had. These reports are incredibly disturbing, Scott spokesperson McKinley Lewis said in a statement, and it is unthinkable that any government entity would conduct secret investigations to build political dossiers on private Americans. The American people deserve to know what Chuck Schumer... Well, nah, hold on. This is all of you. All of you are in this one. Sorry. You can't just blame Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. New and directed when Senator Scott believes the Senate Rules Committee should immediately investigate. Lewis added their office had no knowledge of the level of scrutiny Capitol Police analysts were conducting regarding the senators' events. The unit also scrutinized multiple donors who have met with the House Minority Whip, Steve Scalise. A spokesperson for Scalise said the congressman was unaware of the scrutiny those meetings received. Yeah, like, unless there's, like, some seriously messed up things that are going on that warrant investigation, like, this sounds like the job for investigative journalists to out any representative or senator or elected official's dirty laundry. Who are you meeting with? What kind of donors are you hosting? This sounds like investigative journalism. Not anything to do with, like, government spying, essentially. As a general practice, Farnham directed analysts to search for any information about event attendees, including donors and staff, that would cast a member in a negative light. This included searching for information about mayors, Hill staff, and state legislators. That's so weird. The Capitol Police said in a statement described the practice of seeking public information about people meeting with lawmakers as part of the department's mission. It is our duty to protect members of Congress wherever they are, just like journalists. Wait, no, you're not just like journalists. We do research with public information. Okay. A Capitol Police official said that intelligence analysts look into each person listed as attending an event. The official said lawmakers asked for intelligence assessments through the House or Senate Sergeant-at-Arms offices, as well as coordination with local law enforcement for specific events they plan to attend. Lawmakers then provide names of attendees to Sergeant-at-Arms, who shared those names with Capitol Police. Nonetheless, the responses from Armstrong, Scalise, and Scott indicate that lawmakers who provide information to the department may not be aware of the scope of the analysis conducted on their associates. The intelligence office's policy shift came in the wake of the violent riot that sparked a reckoning over congressional security, including on how Capitol Police gathers intelligence on threats facing members. The department official noted that Capitol Police Inspector General has urged the department to do more to protect lawmakers and to emulate the Secret Service, which conducts checks of its own on backgrounds of those who meet the president. I mean, yeah, that makes sense, but okay. Civil liberties experts warned that the Capitol Police updated practices raises the prospect for First Amendment violations. Rochelle Levinson-Wallman, Deputy Director of Liberty and National Security Programs, the nonprofit Brennan Center for Justice, said the practice is of questionable legality and is a recipe for creating dossiers on people. She added that the federal law protects against collecting and keeping of data about people without a specific and authorized purpose. You would think so, but it seems to keep happening, right? Patrick Toomey, Senior Staff Attorney with the ACLU's National Security Project, said the Capitol Police Unit's practices raises concerns about the constitutional rights of people who meet with lawmakers. When police set out to monitor people's social media activity without any reason to believe they have engaged in criminal activity, it raises the First Amendment concerns. Those concerns are especially strong here where individuals are coming under scrutiny simply because they are exercising the right to petition members of Congress. And privacy worries climb too. This monitoring may mean that people's protected speech is retained in police files indefinitely. Yeah, that's kind of weird. Listen, I get that if you're under investigation for any alleged criminal activity, that's obviously you're committing a crime and people are investigating you. Okay, but if you're monitoring people with no real justification, if law enforcement or intelligence is monitoring you for no real justification, we've got a problem. We've got a problem at that point. Just because the Capitol Police and the FBI, and whoever else messed up does not mean you get to have more power. That's not how this works at all. The best part of waking up some ADT in your cup, true. How's it going, Heat? Or LSD, either way. Alio with the Tier 1 subscription, 15 months, wow. 14-month streak. Thank you so much, I appreciate that. Good morning. Good morning all around. Howdy, howdy. Thank you so much for the support. I appreciate that. TLDR, using your failures on January 6th to expand surveillance is omega cringe. Not cool. I knew that. Pro streamer. The next COVID variant, I thought he was just sitting there till I looked up and it was muted. Yeah, nah, it's, yep, it happened. The next COVID variant will rise to the world's attention. Will be more contagious than Omicron, but the real question scientists need to answer is whether or not it'll be more deadly. The answer to that is usually, no. I thought it was me. I'm having internet issues, fam. Oh no, that sucks. Oh no. Oh, no worries. No worries, folks. It's actually me. It was me. The next variant of concern will be more fit, and what we mean by that is it will be more transmissible because it will have to overtake what is currently circulating. The big question is whether or not future variants will be more or less severe. History shows us that it will most likely be less severe. She warned against buying into theories that the virus will continue to mutate into milder strains that makes people less sick than earlier variants. There's no earlier variants. There's no guarantee of that. We hope that is the case, but there's no guarantee of that, and we can't bank on it. That is true. You can never... so people people run with statements like this, and then think that this is some kind of like doomer statement. It's not. It's just that scientists, generally speaking, don't always, shouldn't speak in absolutes, right? History shows us that that's generally the trend when it comes to these things, but there is a possibility that it won't. Noting that people should heed public safety measures. In the meantime, what's more, the next iteration of code may also evade vaccine protections even more, which we already see that. Even furthermore, to kind of put the cherry on top, it's already Omicron variants has been shown to even circumvent some monoclonal antibody treatments. So, yeah. Pfizer and BioNTech started testing a COVID vaccine that specifically targets the Omicron variant as concerns grow that the current shots aren't holding up against infections and mild illness caused by the strain discovered just over 2 months ago. The US CDC found in a study published last week that a booster dose of Pfizer's was 90% at preventing hospitalizations from Omicron 14 days after the third shot was administered. Booster doses are also up to 75% at preventing symptomatic infections from Omicron 2 to 4 weeks after the third shot. However, a study found that boosters weaken substantially after 10 weeks, providing 45 to 50% protection against symptomatic infections. While Omicron appears to have peaked in some countries, it's gaining ground in others. You won't have to wear a mask forever and you won't have to physically distance, but for now we need to keep doing this. The virus will continue to evolve before it settles into a pattern, said Dr. Mike Ryan, who's Director of Emergency Programs. He said it will hopefully settle into a low level of transmission with potentially occasional epidemics, and that could be more seasonal or affect only vulnerable groups. The problem is COVID is unpredictable, right? And you can't just speak in absolutes. Although this has been the trend for most pandemics, or I guess viruses that outbreak like this. You just gotta go with whatever new data comes out. The virus has been proven to us to give some nasty surprises. If there's a nasty surprise that we can at least put in place measures again that will stop this new variant from doing any more damage. So we have to keep doing boosters every 10 weeks? No. No. Providing 45 to 50% protection against symptomatic infection is pretty decent. It's actually pretty good. The fact that we can even get to 75% effectiveness is amazing in and of itself. 45 to 50% protection against symptomatic infections. In other words, there's a coin flip that you won't even have any symptoms. And if you do, then it will be very mild. That's the idea. So then boosters each year like the flu, it may be something like that. It may settle into patterns like seasonal flu. It may do that. That's what they're suggesting. It may become something akin to the flu. In other words, it may settle into a pattern with low-level transmissions, potentially occasional epidemics and occasional breakouts, and it becomes seasonal. That may only affect vulnerable groups. It may become something to that effect at some point. That's what they're suggesting. That's what they're suggesting. Hopefully we see the light at the end of the tunnel sooner rather than later, but we will see. We shall see. As more information comes in, we'll continue to report on it. That's all we can say. That's all we can say for now. Yeah, well. Because money. Because money. What if we got over pandemics through history by physically... No. That's just not gonna happen, Tendera.
Ben Shapiro also probably the first ever not cited Israel's but just how about a testing mandate period? No exemptions. But that was too expensive for what it came down to.
If you are staying home because you were quote unquote near somebody who tested positive for COVID, I don't know why you're even testing. If you're asymptomatic, you should not be testing at this point. Bottom line is this. If you are sick, then you should probably stay home. When I say probably, I got to be honest with you. I don't know why. Like, I really don't know why. Like, unless you are seriously ill, I don't understand why you would stay home at a point when everyone will get Omicron. Everyone. Okay, you staying home is not going to prevent your friends from getting Omicron because they all have Omicron because everyone is positive for Omicron.
Pause it for 1 second.
Hey, this is Cory Book.
Second. When was this done? Monday? Yesterday?
Omicron at this point. So you don't stay home with a cold. You don't stay home when you have like a mild virus. Okay, but somehow this, which now acts like a mild virus post-vaccination.
I don't know if Ben Shapiro has any kids, but you are told to keep your kids at home if they have a fever. And in fact, the younger kids, they say, 24 hours until the fever clears. They don't want people coming in with colds. But
immunity, which again has now been proved to be more
food, even better. Go ahead.
Way less deadly than Delta, even without vaccination. And certainly if you have natural immunity, which again has now been proved to be more durable than vaccine immunity. If you have all those things, then I'm not sure why we are still acting as though staying home is inevitably the proper strategy here. And in fact, it isn't the proper strategy when it comes to healthcare. Hey, in our places with the most vulnerable people, hospitals are now calling COVID positive people back into work.
My strategy is to...
Gee, Ben, I wonder why. I mean, like, this is insane. This is unironically insane. Hey, if you have the flu, just make sure you go out there and give it to everybody. If you have a cold, just give it to everybody. Of course, this only line of thinking works because we don't have a legitimate, like, healthcare system. This logic is only flows within these people's heads because we don't have, like, paid sick leave. That's not, like, a thing. We don't have mandated paid sick leave where you have to mandate companies that employees have 10 days sick leave. Employees have a week sick leave. That's not mandated. Some companies, if you call out sick, they'll just use your paid time off. Oh, you had to go to the doctor? Hope you didn't need any vacation. This only works because of the system that we have.
That the Biden administration put out for everyone.
It's on the road.
If you are staying home because you were quote unquote near somebody who tested positive for COVID, I don't know why you're even testing. If you're asymptomatic, you should not be testing at this point. Bottom line is this. If you are sick, then you should probably stay home. When I say probably, I got to be honest with you.
He's advocating for people to just get back out there. Get back to work. Obviously, Ben does not care about anybody but himself. He's fine. He's fine. At any point, he can just stay home, do his little podcast from home. He's in a hotel right now, isolated if he has to. If he has to. It is asinine logic, Echo Resto Dragon. How's it going, by the way? It is absolutely asinine to advocate for people to just get out there because, oh, dude, it's just, bro, you feel a cold? Why are you staying home? Get back to work. And then when half the office gets sick and has to call out sick, well, psh. If you have the flu, just give it to everybody. Yeah, let's just guess if we have COVID, guys. No testing. Yeah, just roll the dice, guys. Hope you win the dice roll. This hurts my brain. Yeah, it does. But this is what's considered smart. This is what's considered the cool kids philosopher. Because I speak very fast and I speak very logically. And the faster I speak, the more I make sense.
I don't know why. Like, I really don't know why. Like,
I really don't know why. I mean, like, do other people even exist? Do other people other than myself exist? I can't, Jesus, I can't even think. I just don't have, I have no other reason. I mean, I guess people exist. Other people than myself? I don't know.
unless you are seriously ill, I don't understand why you would stay home at a point when everyone will get Omicron. Everyone. Okay, you staying home is not going to prevent your friends from getting Omicron because they all have Omicron because everyone is positive for Omicron.
That's, first of all, that is such an insane logic. That's just an insane claim. That is an insane claim.
1 second. Pause it from 1 second. When was this done? Monday? Yesterday? Put up the graph of Omicron infections in this country. Now, this is something that everyone predicted a month or two ago. I thought we would hit the peak on January 16th. When I canceled the show, or postponed the show, I was like, that's probably going to be the peak. It is starting to drop. Now, everyone is not going to get Omicron.
Look at that hockey stick.
Granted, 1 million kids got it the week of January 18th. We know data
Jesus.
suggests 10% of them will get.
You don't stay home with a cold. You don't stay home when you have like a mild virus.
You don't stay home with a cold. Maybe you should. Like, I don't get it. Like, so, because, first of all, if you don't feel right, if you don't feel good, whether it be because you have a stomach virus, or your upset stomach, or you have a really bad headache, or, I don't know, you got messed up doing exercises, and now you don't feel good, you should just go to work? What? You should just go to work instead of taking care of yourself? Second add-on to that, if you know you're sick, potentially a cold, potentially flu, potentially COVID, why would you want to go to work and give it to the rest of your office or place of work? Thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. Yeah, like yes, like, exactly, like Trump. If you don't test and we don't know, then it's gone. Poof, pandemic over. Nice. Nice. This is just insane.
Yeah, but somehow this, which now acts like a mild virus post-vaccination.
I don't know if Ben Shapiro has any kids, but
which now acts like a mild virus in post-vaccination. So what, vaccines work or something? It's almost like vaccines work.
If you have all those things, then I'm not sure why we are still acting as though staying home is inevitably the proper strategy here. And in fact, it isn't the proper strategy when it comes to healthcare. Hey, in our places with the most vulnerable people, hospitals are now calling COVID positive people back into work.
My strategy is to go in and spread as much COVID as I can. That's my strategy.
Yeah, and furthermore, it is true that a lot of hospitals and systems that are suffering are calling people back to work because they need them. They're so desperate and understaffed. That's not an argument. But, you know, Ben Shapiro can claim and do these things because he's quite comfortable by himself in an isolated hotel room. And if he does happen to get sick, no problem. He's fine. He's just going to sit there and do his podcast with the stuffy nose or whatever because he's vaccinated. I'm sure he's vaccinated. I think he even mentioned that he was vaccinated. He said he made the decision for himself and for his wife, something to that effect. I forget what he posted a long time ago, months ago. He's vaccinated. He's going to be fine. Thank you for the follow, Shapeshifter. Why is he doing this? Have you checked the YouTube views? Have you checked his standings on Facebook? It's quite a simple answer. And he tacitly admits that he just doesn't care. He's going to be fine. Chances are, if you are going to be fine, then you shouldn't care. Whenever I see Ben, I cringe. Trust me, we all collectively cringe. And I think even to go further, the real takeaway from all of this, the only reason this is even possible, the only reason Ben's take is even possible, is because of our crappy system. This wouldn't be a thing if we had mandated paid sick leave. This wouldn't be a thing if we had some type of universal health care that's not attached to your job. That's the only way this works. That's the only way this works. Thank you for the follow. Wait a second. We are never going to get over it at this rate. The virus is just going to keep mutating. That is true, but according to the WHO, there is a good chance, hopefully, that it becomes something to the effect of like a seasonal, an epidemic, occasional breakouts, things like that. At some point, hopefully that's the end game. And yeah, in a weird about sense, like the flu, like seasonal patterns, settled patterns. That's the end game that is more favorable. I'm sure part of it has to do with it. No, hands is good. Hands is good. Hands is suitable. And support from his own personal shitty beliefs. Yeah, I mean, like, this guy platforms people like Candace Owens. No pushback. No pushback from the just delusional claims that Candace Owens does on his platform, on his Daily Wire show. No pushback whatsoever. I really don't think that deep down he believes a lot of the things he says, because you can see the internal contradictions play out, right? We could watch the internal contradictions play out in real time. Morning, Nakapolyons. Just wanted to stop by and say hi, howdy. Is NDTV a good news source? I have no idea. What is NDTV? The bubonic plague went around Europe for over 300 years. Well, luckily this is nothing like this. I just found it. I have no idea. I've never heard of them. I've never heard of them. We also have better understanding of pathogens now. That's true. That's true. That is true. We have a much better understanding of viruses and things like that, and treatments, vaccines. We've got worlds above. Some different articles say Europe slowly starts to consider treating COVID like the flu. I have no idea. You're gonna have to back those sources up. If you mean, because like if you just read the article, read a headline like that, without reading the whole article, it could just be the exact same thing that the WHO said, that eventually, as history has shown, with the way viruses work, they just become settled into a pattern and may become something of the sort of a seasonal thing, right? Seasonal thing with outbreaks, with endemic outbreaks, and something akin to what the flu became, right? It could just be something like that. Because eventually, that is quite possible a path that could very well happen with COVID, right? But, you know, in the meantime, just get out there, work. And if you feel sick, according to Ben Shapiro, don't do anything. It's okay. Right, we should take it day by day. That's the only real way of doing it, to be quite frank. You gotta take it day by day. New information comes in. This is science in real time. Because of this unprecedented nature of this, we're doing science in real time. We're taking it as information comes. We update our information. Yeah, true, Eco Resto Dragon. How's it going, by the way? Howdy. We're all tired of it. We are all tired of it. I think we're too late for that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna call it right now. I think I found the
two writers sat down to craft an essay, a manifesto of. In 2004, two writers sat down to craft an essay, a manifesto of sorts. After honing in on an argument and spilling it onto the page, they released their brainchild into the world. What followed was a firestorm of conversation and debate. Their words reached the front page of the New York Times, The Economist, and Salon, sparking a conversation around the direction of climate action. The essay, provocatively titled The Death of Environmentalism, outlined the beginnings of a burgeoning line of thought among some environmentalists. One that proposed technological innovation and hyper-urbanization as the most effective solution to curbing greenhouse gas emissions. Since 2004, this ideology has seeped into mainstream climate action and is crystallized under the term eco-modernism. Today, we're going to dive deep into the arguments of eco-modernism and reveal why the solutions it proposes are not adequate for the crises we face and might actually lock in dangerous industrial emissions and extraction for decades to come. This video is sponsored by CuriosityStream, which now comes with Nebula for free when you sign up using the link in the description. Right before they wrote Death of Environmentalism, authors Ted Nordhaus and Michael Schellenberger founded the Breakthrough Institute in 2003, a California-based think tank that has driven eco-modernism to prominence. Although essays forming the outlines of the eco-modernist philosophy can be found as early as the 1990s, it wasn't until 2015 that thought leaders from the Breakthrough Institute and other think tanks clearly laid out the contours of their ideology in the Eco-Modernist Manifesto. In this piece, the authors assert that eco-modernism can remedy the climate crisis through the advancement of technologies that divorce our lifestyles from emissions and any environmental impact while still maintaining economic growth. This idea has come to be known as decoupling. Decoupling not only in terms of using technologies like wind, solar, and nuclear to separate emissions output from economic growth, but also decoupling in terms of hyper-urbanization, megacities, and high-tech farming that create dense populations so that much of the earth can turn back to so-called pristine wilderness. In their love of decoupling, eco-modernists valorize the supposed progress of modernization. The authors of the manifesto point to rises in life expectancy, reforestation rates in New England, and global food security as some of the many indicators that the march of progress and technology smoothly and immaculately trend trend towards the better. In the eyes of the eco-modernists, the solution to emissions is technological innovation built on free markets, which, if we look at the history of modernization theory, has always been neoliberal capitalism's answer to the threat of communism. As we'll soon see, however, eco-modernism is not only unfeasible, but also its philosophy is built on ahistorical and shaky foundations that reveal a reluctance to face the reality of a highly unequal and environmentally devastated world under capitalism. In the eyes of eco-modernists and modernization theory in general, the history of progress is a steady path, a rising tide of technology and increased well-being that lifts all ships. In their manifesto, the eco-modernist authors write that humanity has flourished over the past 2 centuries. Studying average life expectancy has increased from 30 to 70 years, civil liberties have expanded globally, and even women's liberation has taken root in many countries. According to modernists, these advancements didn't arise from revolutionary pressure from below, but instead from the introduction of new technologies that alleviated individuals from their hardships. It's a rose-tinted ahistorical vision that edits out the reality of abrupt revolutionary ruptures in history that actually caused change, and replaces them with an idea that the slow march of technology over the last 2 centuries has brought peace and prosperity to all. The unspoken subtext of this theory is that free market capitalism enables these advancements to flourish. But all is not as rosy as eco-modernism would like us to believe. As writer and farmer Chris Smage notes in a critique of eco-modernism, 200 years ago, the global population was around 1 billion. Today, it's 7 billion and counting, but 1 billion are clinically undernourished, as many as existed 200 years previously. Is that flourishing? He then goes on to point out that inequality is rarely mentioned in an eco-modernist world. Life expectancy may have risen, but if you dig into the data, most of that rise is due to the decrease in child and infant mortality. In addition, there are still vast differences in life expectancies even within the imperial core. In the US, the average life expectancy of one of the richest neighborhoods in Boston, Back Bay, is 91.9 years old, while 4 miles away in Roxbury, a predominantly poor neighborhood, life expectancy is 58.9 years old. Modernization has lifted some ships and left others to drown, because modernization, with its reliance on technological innovation and the relentless churn of capitalism, needs to push on the throats of the many in order for the few to enjoy the fruits of so-called progress. Our shirts are cheap because of certain technological advancements, yes, but they're also cheap because of flagrant worker and environmental exploitation in countries in the periphery. From life-threatening mining practices that pull raw materials out of the ground for assembly line machines, to inhumane work conditions in sweatshops, all the way back to the genesis of settler colonialism and chattel slavery, the road to progress is far from pristine. It's built on a foundation of inequality and unequal exchange. Modernization is not the force for good that eco-modernists want to believe it is. Yet on this shaky foundation, they argue for the environmentally dubious idea of decoupling that could mean locking in catastrophic climate change for decades if we are not careful. While eco-modernists praise the technological advancements of the last 2 centuries as saviors from the dark ages of primitivism, they also recognize the toll that mechanization, fossil fuels, synthetic fertilizers, and other inventions have had on the environment. The solution for an eco-modernist, however, is not to recognize the destructive underside of the march of technologies, consumption, capitalism, or intensification, but instead to do more of the same, but better. This is a fundamental tenet of eco-modernist thought. The climate crisis can be solved with modern technologies that use natural ecosystem flows and services more efficiently, offering a real chance of reducing the totality of human impacts on the biosphere. In short, eco-modernist solutions rely heavily on using technology to separate humanity from any impact they might have on the natural world. But there are a number of problems with this separation, also known as decoupling. Most importantly, it doesn't work. In the eco-modernist manifesto, the authors point towards the slow decarbonization of rich nations over the last 3 centuries as an indicator that separating emissions from economic growth is possible. Unfortunately, the decarbonization they point to is merely a trick of the numbers. A 2012 paper looked at the emissions associated with both domestic and imported materials for 186 countries. The authors found that while nations in the imperial core seem to have decoupled their GDP from domestic raw material consumption, when imported materials are included, they observed no improvements in resource productivity at all. This means that the decarbonization that eco-modernists point to is just another product of unequal exchange. The imperial core are dumping their ecological burden on the periphery in the form of factories and extraction, and then claiming they're doing good. In addition, the technologies that eco-modernists propose as tools to achieve decoupling have still...
Yeah, so there's an interesting point in this one here. So, this is a classic case of, yeah, sure, numbers don't lie, but I can make them say what I want them to say. Lawsuit rating with a party of 20. Thank you so much. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the end game. This is a great point here, because we can claim that we're doing so much better in reducing emissions, and look at all how more efficient we're being, but without taking into consideration or conveniently leaving out the environmental impacts that we have just simply moved to other places. That's it. That's all we did. Thank you so much, everybody. If you haven't already, please go to twitch.tv/lawsuit. Go show them some support, yeah?
yet to be tested in the real world. The largest direct air capture plant, for example, only sucks up the equivalent of 790 passenger cars worth of CO2 every year, while next-generation nuclear power is still just an idea yet to be tested. But eco-modernism also champions another form of decoupling, one that seeks to separate humanity from nature itself. This is exemplified in their ideas for megacities and agricultural intensification. According to eco-modernists, both the mechanization of farming and creating dense cities means less impact on the land while still maintaining similar food production and quality of life. But the reality is that industrialized farming uses more land for each yield than small-scale agriculture, which by
True. By the way, folks, if you guys don't know who we are a Difficult Truth. We do news and politics Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. Eastern Time, and hang out with us on Saturdays for Saturday Catterdays. Kitty cats on stream guaranteed. Make sure you hit that follow button. You get a 5 free emotes and join us on YouTube. Join us on the YouTube. It just takes 5 seconds to hit that big red subscribe button. It does help us out and spread the word far and wide that this is the chillest place to be for news and politics.
By the way, has an added bonus of connecting people with the land so they actually care about it. Even vertical farming requires extensive electricity to power, which is unfeasible in an era when we need to be sharply decreasing electricity demand.
Well, hold on. We need to be conscious of how that energy is made. It isn't the consumption of energy or electricity or whatever that's the problem. It's how it's made.
As for megacities, the dream is that cities are more efficient, which in some respects they are, but once they grow too large, their efficiency drops. According to one analysis of material flows in megacities, the 7% of the world's population living in megacities consumes 9% of its electricity and 10% of its petrol, and produces nearly 13% of the world's waste. In short, decoupling from the land will not only not work, but it will divorce us from a world that grounds us, makes us happy, and gives us life. Ultimately, eco-modernism presents technological pipe dreams wrapped in myths of decoupling and modernization. If we are serious about climate change, if we are serious about action, eco-modernism is not the path forward. Eco-modernist thought is a specter that pervades both right and left climate action. If left unchecked, an eco-modernist climate plan could mean the locking in of capitalist inequality and imperialist agendas under the guise of technological progress. Holding out for untested technologies like direct carbon capture and thorium reactors, instead of focusing on degrowth in sectors like the military and fossil fuels, could mean that 40 years down the road, we will be in an even worse position than we are right now. Eco-modernism, now championed by ultra-rich billionaires like Elon Musk and Bill Gates, is an insidious response to climate change that greenwashes capitalism and imperialism. To truly address the climate crisis, we can't just do more of the same as eco-modernism suggests. We must break abruptly from our current systems of imperialist extraction and fossil fuel-driven capitalist destruction and embrace new ecological ways of living that champion climate reparations for the global south, connection to and stewardship of the natural world, and the liberation of all people and planet. If you want to learn a bit more about how Elon Musk perpetuates the views of eco-modernism, I made a section all about his eco-modernist endeavors, but I didn't make it into the final cut of this video. So instead, I've uploaded that section as an extended edition of this video on the streaming platform my creator friends and I built called Nebula. The bonus content replaces this
okay,
ad because
bonus memes. All right, gotcha. Look, taking the rhetoric aside, agitprop rhetoric aside, the reality is we are in an unsustainable system. This just can't continue to go on and expect to have different results. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like there is enough movement in the right direction, but we have to acknowledge that there are serious problems in the systems that we have here. And without this acknowledgement, without the questioning of where we are, of where we're going, how do we expect to move forward? How do we expect to move forward? Like these technologies that are shoddy, unproven, at best, aren't going to save us. We already have the tools that we need. We have the capabilities of creating new industries, entirely new industries with green energy. We have the capabilities of manufacturing solar panels at very cheap prices. We have the capability of making efficient wind, and if done right, without disturbing the ecology, hydroelectric systems. We have the capabilities of making geothermal power. These aren't new technologies. and their current iterations are very, very, very cheap and very effective. Our battery technology has moved leaps and bounds. We have the capability of storing energy through air batteries. We have the capability of making turbines just using the air around us. That technology exists today. That technology exists today. How's it going, Lasu? Thank you so much for joining us and welcome everybody. Unfortunately, came in at the tail end of the stream, but I'm glad you guys are here. You guys actually can join us as we head on over to the next channel. Just stick with us as we jump on the raid wave, okay? So just stick with us, all right? I'm Jack Mac, A Day in the House, short on lyrics, but the shows a commentary on political urgency towards the environment. Nothing is getting done. Yeah, nothing is getting done. That's the mega issue we're having here. Nothing is getting done. The sense of urgency isn't there. Yes, please join our Discord to keep up with the channel for any updates. It's right there. The sense of urgency isn't there. The political will isn't there. A lot of the times it seems like we're just treading water, but how are you going to do things without wind? How will we have power? You're right, I didn't think about that. What happens when it becomes nighttime? What happens when the sun disappears? It's just wild to me. We have so much capabilities, and yet we're here. We have so much capability, and yet we're here. Use the ocean currents. Well, I think there's offshore wind farms being built that are showing very good promise. There's offshore wind plants that are being built, turbines that are showing good promise. Yep. There's just so many choices of what we can do. We already have the tools to address these problems, in my opinion. But as long as the almighty dollar rules everything, above all, we will continue to be in the situation that we are in. That being said, folks, hey, Skiddadeer, how's it going? That being said, folks, I do gotta get going. Never forget to talk about the climate crisis wherever possible, whenever possible, every day. Please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm very unfashionably... No. You're just early for tomorrow. Okay? You're just early for tomorrow, and you're early for the raid that's gonna happen. That's what you're early for. Hello, everyone. Hey, Andy from Ohio. I've seen you before. I think you were in MR's chat room. I'm early for tomorrow, too. True, Dustin. Appreciate ya. I really like the light blue end of your mic. Thank you. I appreciate that. I try to keep it consistent, right? There's like a light blue theme going on. Kind of. There's like a dark, light blue theme going on from variations of shades. Have a good one. You have a good one. Hang tight, folks. Thank you so much, Lasu, for the raid. I appreciate that. Thank you for all the follows. Folks, don't forget, on your way out, hit the follow button. Alright, hit the follow button. Join us Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Join us on Saturdays, noon Eastern Time. As always, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. See ya! later. Hang tight, folks. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go.